I'm looking at a statement that you put out in which you called the president's speech last night pathetic and unserious. You call it pretext to undermine the results in November by casting false doubt on the integrity of our democratic systems. Is there no merit to any claim that there may be vulnerabilities in America's voting systems?
Well, look, there are certainly vulnerabilities. There are foreign adversaries who would like to attack our elections. That's why I'm dismayed that the president himself dismantled the election security unit at CISA, our cybersecurity agency. But having a vulnerability and having them exploited are two different things. And the president last night quoted from old intelligence reports that have been made available, but his own intelligence agencies in 2020 concluded that there was no credible evidence that any of this had actually resulted in any of the claims he's made. So it's already been discounted. The president continues to do this partly because he simply can't get over the fact that he lost the 2020 election. And I think there's an immaturity in him that he's never going to get past it. But more importantly, this is a concerted effort by the president, as he has done when he talks about the SAVE Act, when he talks about all manner of things, executive orders, as a pretext to trying to undermine the verdict of the people in the 2026 midterm elections. So, we're very concerned about his wild accusations, unfounded charges. It's what he does. And he lies, and his administration members swear to it, but there is no credible evidence. It didn't happen. The vulnerabilities would be and should be met by election security unit in CISA and in other parts of the government, but he's dismantled all of that. So we're concerned, but we're continuing to move ahead. And Americans should know, look, American elections are safe, they're secure, people should have confidence. Local election administrators, and I talk to them all over this country, Democrats and Republicans, do a great job. They're very, very serious about their work. They take it almost as a sacred obligation because they know the American people rely on them to be able to render a verdict when it comes to election time.
Well, it certainly did not seem, Congressman, to be a presentation that would bring Democrats and Republicans closer together. And you can speak to the discord on Capitol Hill. A lot of folks think we're in a world in which nothing gets passed for the rest of this midterm election cycle. But the Speaker of the House has presented a continuing resolution to kind of jump past the expiration of government funding at the end of September and clear Election Day. Is that something that Democrats are open to, or are we bracing for a shutdown at the end of September?
No, look, Joe, the problem is we continue to do this. We kick the can down the road. We try to pass elections so that there's no ability to have an accounting. We need to work on appropriation bills. I'm on the Appropriation Committee. We have reported all 12 of the bills that need to be considered. We should be passing them in the House. We should continue to move ahead. And we shouldn't start. Here we are in the middle of July, and the Speaker wants to wave the white flag and say, we surrender. We can't possibly conclude our work by October 1st. I mean, it is the height of irresponsibility. And look, I get it. They're very concerned about the midterm elections. They're concerned about the poll numbers for the president, on the economy, on Iran, on the cost of living. I understand it. But you know what they should do? They should work on fixing what they're doing in terms of policy, not simply trying to go around the American people so that they're left with no real information as they cast ballots in November.
So understood, Congressman, that you would like to see the regular appropriations process completed by the end of the fiscal year. But if we were to arrive at September 30th, and it is not, and a continuing resolution is the only option to keep the government open, are your colleagues willing to do a CR just ahead of the midterms in that scenario?
Well, look, it's a long ways away, but what often happens is it's described as a simple continuing resolution. We're going to take funding from last year, carry it forward. But unfortunately, that's not what ever happens. They always add additional things that weren't part of the original deal. And a CR also gives inordinate amounts of power to the Office of Management and Budget that controls budget. Russ Vought already ignores Congress. This will just give him greater license to do it. So I think it will depend, Kailey, on what's actually in it. And I hate to say it, but we would have to verify what is the claims about it. But I think, again, to start having that conversation in the middle of July, we're months away. Why aren't we just working hard at trying to get an agreement between the Senate and the House, send it to the president for his signature? It says to me the height of irresponsibility that in July we're talking about things that essentially shouldn't happen for a couple of months when we consider a CR. Why would you do it now when there's so much time and the American people are counting on a government that meets its minimum obligations, which is to have an appropriation package so we can have government spending that has been vetted by representatives in the House, representatives in the Senate, and sent to the president for his action.
Well, we can probably all agree that what should be debated right now is this supplemental budget request that the White House has made to pay for the war in Iraq, not to mention the $1.5 trillion Pentagon funding request that would be part of the annual budget allocation. I'm just curious your thoughts on the supplemental here. This number's grown to $95 billion. It's not all for Iran, of course. You've got money for farmers, money, in fact, for election security. But with the president upping the ante here and promising next week to start attacking power plants, we saw reportedly 6 bridges go down in the last 24 hours. Congressman, what do you need to hear from this administration, if not an actual argument from the president himself, as some of the war powers questions have brought up, to vote for that?
Well, it's a great question, Joe. We have the power of the purse. The founders put that in Article 1 of the United States Constitution. We have been asking literally for months now of the administration for financial accounting of what's been spent in Iran so far in this effort. I said to Secretary Hegseth when he appeared in front of our committee months ago that General Washington got information faster to the Continental Congress in 1776 than we're getting right now about the unauthorized war in Iran. So I don't see how we vote on a supplemental when we haven't been given basic information about what the cost has been, nor have we gotten any idea on what the president's goals are. Look, he says one thing one day, changes completely his story the next day. He's really not credible any longer on this question, but we need an accounting, and I suspect that a lot of voices in Congress, both on the Democratic and Republican side, are going to demand an accounting of what's happened up till now before we even get into a serious conversation about a supplemental. And I would certainly ask for it. I hope my colleagues ask for that same accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from accounting to accountability, Congressman, the president says he's holding Canada accountable for the wildfire smoke that has blanketed so much of the country in the mid-Atlantic. I'm sure you're feeling that in Rochester, where I know you've had air quality concerns, just like New York City has. Should Canada shoulder some of the blame for the after effects, the pollution that have stemmed from wildfires?
Well, first of all, I got off the plane last night from Washington. I was astonished. You take a deep breath. I'm sure you're feeling it now in Washington. I can see from the pictures there you're getting it. But look, the president has ignored the real crisis of the climate. He continues to be a denier. He continues to cast doubt on science that's been proven over and over again by experts worldwide. And he's also delayed our ability to respond to emergency situations because of what he's done to FEMA. So, look, should we engage in a conversation with Canada? Should we be offering help to put the wildfires out? Should we be engaged in a more fruitful conversation with our neighbors to north? Absolutely. But, this is the kind of unserious things that the president does. Why doesn't he pick up the phone and talk to the prime minister and say, how does the United States help with dealing with this, not only for the benefit of Americans, but for the benefit of Canadians and people around the world as we deal with the dire effects of this climate crisis, which the president continues to put his head in the sand and ignore. And we see it. You're seeing it. We've seen it the last several days. It's real, and it's here.